The Christmas lights blinked red and green across my bedroom ceiling, casting shadows that should have felt festive but only made everything worse. I sat on my bed, staring at my phone, reading the text from my mother for the third time. Your father and I have decided to suspend your allowance until you apologize to your brother. We expect better from you, Sophia. My hands were shaking. I set the phone down carefully, like it might explode if I moved too fast. Christmas Eve. They chose Christmas Eve. I could hear them downstairs, laughing. Alex's voice carried up through the floorboards, loud and confident, telling some story that was probably half lies. My parents were eating it up, the way they always did. I heard my father's deep chuckle, my mother's delighted gasp. I pressed my palms against my eyes, trying to stop the burning feeling behind them. I would not cry. Not over this. Not over them. My phone buzzed. A text from Mia. Please tell me you're not spending Christmas Eve alone in your room. I typed back quickly. My parents cut off my allowance. They want me to apologize to Alex. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally. For what? That was the question, wasn't it? For what? I'd been trying to figure that out for the past hour. The best I could come up with was last week, when I'd called Alex out for copying my English essay. He'd taken my draft from the printer, changed a few words, and turned it in as his own. When I confronted him, he'd laughed in my face. For telling the truth, apparently, I typed, "Don't let them define your worth, Sophia. You're better than all of them combined." I stared at those words for a long moment. Mia always knew exactly what to say. She'd been my best friend since freshman year, back when I still thought my parents might eventually notice me if I just tried hard enough. Mia had watched me bend over backwards for their approval, had held me while I cried after another dismissal, another casual cruelty. She'd also been the one to finally tell me the truth. They're not going to change, Soph, but you can. Downstairs, someone turned up the Christmas music. Bing Crosby crooned about white Christmases and dreams. I heard my mother call out, "Alex, sweetheart, come see what your father got you." I stood up and walked to my window. Our neighborhood looked like a postcard. Every house draped in lights, inflatable Santas, and reindeer dotting the lawns. The Chen family across the street had their whole extended family over. I could see them through the window, crowded around their dining table, passing plates and laughing. My reflection stared back at me from the dark glass. 17 years old. Brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. My father's gray eyes, though he'd never once mentioned the resemblance. I looked tired. I looked angry. I looked done. My phone buzzed again. "Soph, you still there?" "Yeah," I typed. "I'm here, and I'm not apologizing." "Good. What are you going to do instead?" I turned away from the window and looked at my room. My desk was covered in notebooks, my walls lined with academic achievement certificates that my parents had never bothered to frame. 3rd place in the state science fair, honor roll every semester since 6th grade, national merit semifinalist. All of it gathering dust while downstairs they probably fawned over Alex's latest C+ like it was a Nobel Prize. An idea was forming in my mind. A dangerous idea. The kind of idea that Sophia Harper, the good daughter, the invisible daughter, would never have entertained. But maybe it was time for a different kind of Sophia. I picked up my phone. "I'm going to prove I'm right about everything." "I'm listening." I sat back down on my bed, my heart beating faster now. Alex cheats, constantly, on tests, on homework, on everything. Mr. Benson covers for him because Dad donates to the school. My parents ignore it because he's their golden boy. But I can prove it. How? I don't know yet, but I will. There was a pause then. "I'll help you, whatever you need." Something loosened in my chest. I wasn't alone in this. I had Mia. That was more than Alex had, really. He had enablers, not friends. People who fed his ego, not people who actually cared about him. "Thank you," I typed. "That's what friends are for. Now get some sleep. We'll figure this out after Christmas. For now, just survive." I smiled despite everything. Surviving is my specialty. I set my phone on my nightstand and lay back on my bed, staring at those blinking lights again. Downstairs, my family celebrated without me. They probably hadn't even noticed I wasn't there. They'd probably been relieved. That was fine. Let them celebrate. Let them think they'd won, that they'd put me in my place. Because I was done being invisible. I was done being the daughter they overlooked, the sister they dismissed. I was done watching Alex get away with everything while I struggled for scraps of attention. I'd spent 17 years trying to earn their love. Now I was going to earn something better. Justice. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mother's face from 3 months ago, when I'd won the regional debate championship. I'd rushed home, trophy in hand, so excited I could barely breathe. She'd been in the kitchen, on the phone. She'd glanced at the trophy, given me a distracted smile, and turned back to her conversation. Yes, I'm so proud of him. Alex worked so hard on that project. She hadn't even asked about the tournament. I'd set the trophy on the counter and walked away. Later, I found it had been moved to the shelf in the laundry room, behind the detergent. Alex's participation ribbons from elementary school were still displayed in the living room. I rolled over and grabbed my phone. 2 in the morning. The house was finally quiet. I opened my Photos app and started scrolling back through the months, looking at the evidence I hadn't even realized I'd been collecting. There. September. I'd taken a photo of Alex's history test after finding it on the printer. He'd scored a 94. I'd been sitting next to him during that test. I'd watched him stare blankly at the questions for 20 minutes before Mr. Benson had walked past, glanced at his paper, and whispered something. After that, Alex had started writing furiously. I scrolled further. October, a screenshot of the school's academic honor roll. My name was listed under High Honors. Alex's name appeared under Honors, despite the fact that I'd helped him with his math homework the entire semester because he couldn't factor a polynomial to save his life. November. A photo I'd snapped of Alex's phone screen when he'd left it on the kitchen counter. A group chat with 3 other guys from his class. Benson says he'll give me an extension if my dad makes another donation. Easy. I'd been so angry when I saw that. I'd almost confronted him right there. But then my father had walked in, seen me holding Alex's phone, and lectured me for 20 minutes about respecting privacy and being a better sister. The irony hadn't been lost on me. I kept scrolling. The pattern was undeniable. Every time Alex succeeded, there was an explanation that had nothing to do with actual work. Every time I succeeded, it went unnoticed. My parents had perfected the art of moving goalposts. When I brought home straight A's, they mentioned that Alex was really developing his social skills. When I made the varsity debate team, they pointed out that Alex was so popular, everyone loves him. It didn't matter what I did, it was never enough. My phone lit up with another text from Mia. Can't sleep either? Too angry to sleep, I typed back. Good, channel it, we're going to need it. She was right. Anger was useful. Anger could be focused, sharpened into something precise. I'd spent years swallowing my anger, pushing it down, trying to be the daughter they wanted. Where had that gotten me? Alone in my room on Christmas Eve, plotting revenge because my own family had chosen my dishonest brother over me. I'm making a list, I told Mia. Every time Alex has cheated, every time Benson has helped him, every time my parents have ignored it. Smart, evidence is everything. I opened a new note on my phone and started typing. The words poured out. Months and years of observations I'd been storing without even meaning to. The time Alex had plagiarized an entire book report from Wikipedia. Mr. Benson had given him an A- and told him he had real analytical skills. The time I'd caught Alex with the answer key to a chemistry test in his backpack. He'd told me Dad had gotten it from a teacher friend. When I'd asked Dad about it, he'd looked uncomfortable and changed the subject. The time Mr. Benson had called my parents for a conference about my attitude problem because I'd questioned his grading on one of my papers. Meanwhile, Alex had skipped class 6 times that month and gotten nothing but a friendly warning. My fingers flew across the screen. With each item I added to the list, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just anger anymore. This was clarity. I'd been playing their game by their rules. I'd been trying to win a competition where the rules changed every time I got close to succeeding. I'd been running a race where the finish line moved further away with every step I took. But what if I stopped playing their game? What if I made my own rules? My phone buzzed. How long is that list? I glanced at my screen. 32 items, and I'm not done. Jesus, Soph, this is worse than I thought. It's better than I thought. I typed back. This is proof. This is ammunition. What's the plan? I stared at that question for a long moment. What was the plan? I couldn't just march downstairs and show my parents this list. They'd dismiss it, explain it away, turn it around on me somehow. They were experts at that. No, I needed something bigger, something undeniable. The midterm exams, I typed suddenly. They're in 3 weeks. What about them? Alex is going to cheat. He always does. But this time, I'm going to catch him doing it. Real evidence. Photos, recordings, whatever it takes. There was a pause. That's risky. I know. If you get caught, Benson will expel you before he even thinks about punishing Alex. I know that too. Another pause, longer this time. Then, okay, I'm in. Tell me what you need me to do. I smiled in the darkness of my room. This was why Mia was my best friend. She didn't try to talk me out of it. She didn't lecture me about being the bigger person or letting it go. She just asked how she could help. I need to figure out how he's doing it, I said. The cheating. Benson must be giving him answers somehow. Or at least looking the other way while he uses his phone or notes or something. We could stake out Benson's classroom, Mia suggested. See if Alex meets with him before tests. Maybe, or we could check the cloud drive where teachers post assignments, see if Benson is giving Alex access to test files. Both, we'll do both. I felt a surge of energy despite the late hour. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I had some control. I wasn't just accepting their version of reality anymore. I was going to expose it for what it was. We start after winter break, I said. We have 2.5 weeks to gather everything we need. Consider it done. I set my phone down and lay back on my pillows. Outside my window, the first snow of the season had started falling. Fat white flakes drifted past the streetlights, covering the neighborhood in pristine white. It looked peaceful, beautiful even. But I knew that underneath all that pretty snow, the ground was still frozen solid. Just like underneath all my family's pretty words and expensive gifts and holiday celebrations, there was something rotten, something unfair. Something that needed to be exposed to the light. I closed my eyes, and this time, sleep came easily. I dreamed of spring, when all the snow would melt and reveal what had been hidden underneath all along. The day after Christmas, I woke up with purpose for the first time in months. My allowance was still cut off, my parents were still pretending I didn't exist, but none of that mattered anymore. I had a mission. I found Mia at our usual coffee shop, a small place called The Grind that was miraculously open despite the holiday. She'd claimed our favorite corner table, her laptop already out, 2 cups of coffee waiting. I ordered you a double shot, she said as I slid into the seat across from her. Figured you'd need it. You're a lifesaver. I wrapped my hands around the warm cup and took a long sip. The caffeine hit my system like a starting gun. Mia turned her laptop toward me. I did some digging last night. Look at this. On her screen was a spreadsheet. She'd color-coded it. Green for my academic achievements over the past 2 years, red for Alex's, and yellow for what she called suspicious circumstances. There was a lot of yellow. How did you even get all this? I asked, scrolling through rows of data. School portal mostly, some of it from your social media posts, believe it or not. You mentioned stuff in passing that you don't even realize is significant. She pointed to an entry from last spring. Here, you posted a photo of your chemistry final with a 98%. The next week, Alex posted about getting a 95 on the same test. So Mr. Benson teaches both your sections. Same test. But look at the dates. She highlighted the timeline. Your section took the test on Monday. Alex's section took it on Thursday. I felt my stomach drop. You think someone gave him the questions? I think it's convenient that he always seems to have the same tests as you, just a few days later. And I think his scores are always suspiciously close to yours, considering you've never seen him study once in his life. I leaned back in my chair, my mind racing. We need to prove it. Need to show that he's getting advanced copies of tests or answer keys or something. Way ahead of you. Mia pulled up another file. I created a dummy email account and sent a phishing link to Benson's school email yesterday. You what? Relax, nothing illegal, just a link that tracks if he clicks on it and what device he's using. Old hacker trick my cousin taught me. If Benson opens it, I can see what network he's on and potentially what other devices are connected. I stared at my best friend with new appreciation. You're terrifying. You know that, right? I prefer resourceful. She grinned. But we're just getting started. I need you to do something for me. Anything. Does Alex have his laptop at home? Yeah, why? I need you to get access to it, even just for 10 minutes. I can clone his browser data, see what websites he's visiting, what files he's downloading. If he's getting test answers sent to him, there'll be a trail. I thought about Alex's room down the hall from mine. He was careless, always leaving his door open, his laptop sitting on his desk. I can do that. He's probably playing video games right now. He won't even notice. Perfect, and we need to establish a pattern. Starting next semester, I want you to note every time you have a test and then check when Alex's section has the same test. We'll see if the timing is always suspicious. I pulled out my own phone and opened the school app, checking the spring semester schedule. Benson teaches my AP English class second period. He has Alex's section fifth period, same day. Mia's eyes lit up. Same day? That's even better. If Alex gets the questions from someone in your section, we can narrow down who his source is. He doesn't have friends in my section. Nobody likes him enough to risk getting caught cheating for him. Then it's Benson. Has to be. Mia typed something on her laptop. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. Next test, you finish early like you always do. But instead of leaving, you stay in your seat and you watch. See if Benson does anything unusual with the tests after students start turning them in. Like what? Like taking photos of them, or making copies, or setting one aside. Anything that would give Alex access to the questions before his section takes it. It seemed too obvious, too risky. But then again, Mr. Benson had been getting away with favoritism for years. Maybe he'd gotten sloppy. Maybe he thought he was untouchable because my father wrote him checks. I'll watch him like a hawk, I promised. We spent the next hour going through everything we knew, everything we suspected, and everything we needed to find out. Mia took notes with the precision of a prosecutor building a case. Because that's what this was, really. We were building a case against my brother, my teacher, and, in a way, my entire family. There's one thing I'm worried about, Mia said as we packed up our laptops. What happens after? Let's say we prove Alex cheats and Benson helps him. What then? Then everyone knows the truth. But your parents, Soph, they're not going to take this well. They might double down, blame you for exposing Alex. Are you ready for that? I thought about Christmas Eve, sitting alone in my room while they laughed downstairs. I thought about every ignored achievement, every dismissed complaint, every time they'd chosen him over me without a second thought. I'm ready, I said. I've been ready for a long time. I just didn't know it. Mia nodded slowly. Okay, then let's burn it all down. We left the coffee shop together, stepping out into the cold December afternoon. The Christmas decorations were still up all over town, cheerful and bright. Everyone we passed looked happy, carrying shopping bags, holding hands with loved ones, smiling. I wondered how many of them had families that actually loved them back. Hey, Mia said, bumping my shoulder with hers. You know you're basically a genius, right? Like, objectively, you're probably the smartest person in our entire school. That's not true. It is, though, and someday, your parents are going to realize what they lost by ignoring you. But by then, you'll be long gone, doing amazing things, and they'll just be sad people wondering why their daughter never calls. I felt tears prick at my eyes. I blinked them back hard. Thanks, Mia. I mean it. You're going to do incredible things, with or without their approval. We walked in silence for a while, our breath forming clouds in the cold air. I thought about what came next, about the risk we were taking, about the potential fallout. But mostly, I thought about how good it would feel to finally be proven right. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Dinner at 6. Your father expects you to be there. No mention of the allowance. No mention of the apology they demanded. Just an expectation that I'd show up and play my part in the family performance. I showed the text to Mia. She rolled her eyes. Are you going? Yeah, I said. I'm going. I'm going to sit at that table and smile and nod and let them think everything is fine. While secretly planning their downfall, Exactly. That's cold, Soph. I love it. We said goodbye at the corner, and I headed home. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. It would have been beautiful if I'd cared about beauty right then, but all I cared about was getting into Alex's room and accessing his laptop. All I cared about was finding proof. All I cared about was justice. I walked faster, my hands shoved deep in my coat pockets, my mind already 3 steps ahead. By the time I reached my house, I had a plan. Alex's laptop. His browser history, his email, his chat logs. Somewhere in there was the evidence I needed, and I was going to find it.